Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Thanks once again for joining me here on another episode on another week. Before I get into this week's topic, please, as always, make sure that you are subscribed to whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. It is on Apple, Spotify, Google, all the great podcast platforms, and then all the other ones as well. So by you subscribing, it helps us bump up on those charts and get out to more people who will hopefully get some value out of what it is that I am providing here. If not, get a little bit of entertainment in their week for the 20 minutes that I drop one of these podcasts each and every single week. You can also follow us on the socials. So at the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram, the Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. And while you're on the Facebook page, you can jump into our free group. If you are interested in working with me, I'm just going through the process of relaunching the Unstoppable Dad Project 2.0 premium coaching program, where I am designing it to try and help dads reclaim their strength, their confidence, and their energy so that they can do more with the people that are important to them. So if that is you and you need some help with that, there is a link in the show notes where you can book in a time to have a free chat with me, and we will go through everything in the program and make sure that it's a good fit for you. I also do have other training programs where if you're looking to build strength, build athleticism, and enhance sporting performance, I can help you out with that as well too. So either one of those, if you would like some help with, you can book in a time using the link in the show notes. So that is it for the notices for this week. Moving on to the topic. And the topic for the week is, are you wasting your time doing cardio? And the reason I've picked this topic is because on a few coaching calls, I have had this question asked. These are new clients, not clients that particularly work with me. And also, too, if you're having a look on the internets at the moment, there seems to be a bit of a push in some influencer circles on alienating cardio, telling people that you're wasting your time doing it. It shouldn't be part of your program. Get off the treadmill, get off the bike, and start doing strength training instead. And that should be your whole source of training. Now, I'm a massive advocate of strength training. I think that everyone should be doing it in some way, shape, or form, almost regardless of your goal, because there is an element where if you have a good structured program within your life, all it will do is it's going to enhance whatever that end goal is. So if you are training for sport, having a strength program that is going to complement your sports training is very important from the point of view of injury prevention, from the point of view of also enhancing your athletic ability. Now, this is not every single strength program, and I think some people get, without going down the rabbit hole too much because it's not necessarily about strength programming, some people get strength programming very, very wrong. Just because you're holding a dumbbell in your hand does not mean you're doing strength training. It can actually be muscular endurance or conditioning training. If you're just because, don't let anybody tell you if that what you are doing as strength training just because you are holding some form of external resistance. In fact, there is a little bit of a thing out there where I've seen certain people who program minute intervals, trying to do as many as you can of a particular movement in that minute. And just because you're doing it with a pair of dumbbells, they're trying to pass it off as strength training. It's not actually strength training. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the topic about whether you are wasting your time doing cardio or not. But I am a very, very big advocate for strength training. I think it is a very important part of making you the healthiest that you can be. However that looks and whatever you enjoy doing, I think it is a very important thing for pretty much everybody to have in a well-balanced approach to their health. From the point of view of cardio, I also think that having some level of cardiovascular training in your health program is also very, very important. And this idea that you are wasting your time doing it, I think is a little bit silly. And it is not it is not taking into account every factor that may be going into why somebody is doing cardio. And I'm going to run through a few reasons why I think it needs to be looked at. Firstly, everything and every piece of advice needs to be context dependent. And I've spoken about this on the podcast when I've done some interviews before. But in today's day and age, unfortunately, polarity, so being at extreme ends of the spectrum, is what gets clicks. It's what gets likes, and it is also what gets views. And as a result, throwaway lines like "you're wasting your time doing cardio," "don't do cardio," "don't do this," "don't do that," are out there because the algorithm on social media promotes it. It is what gets people onto these people's pages. It is what drives the audience, which at the end of the day, for some of these people, is what pays the bills. But I don't believe you're wasting your time doing it, because depending on, firstly, it's very context specific. Just because you see somebody on a treadmill or on a bike at the gym doing 20 to 30 minutes on there, you don't know their story. You don't know exactly what they're training for. Some people may be training for something that actually requires a very heavy cardio element to it. And so you're not wasting your time doing it. And the fact is, strength training is designed to train our muscles, but our heart is also a muscle too. So there is an element where we need to make sure that we are training that in regularity in order to make sure that we are being well-rounded in our overall strength, in our overall fitness, in our overall health. And if you're not doing that, then that can be a missing piece. Now, strength training will also train your heart, because it promotes blood flow to the area. It promotes blood flow to the muscles. Your heart has to pump in order for your muscles to contract. And when your muscles are contracting whenever they are under load, an external load, like they are within strength training. Now, even if strength is your goal, what I have observed, and this is just tying into this last point, is I've actually observed that cardio in itself can enhance your strength training. Now, I'm not talking about doing a full-on or full-blown circuit or CrossFit workout with the strength training that you do, but I have noticed in my own training and in the training of those in the people that I have trained, a difference when they do some form of monostructural cardio within their strength program. I have noticed that their ability to do more volume increases if they have a good cardiovascular base. And for a lot of people, especially beginners, but also too some more advanced athletes, again, this is very context specific. If you have a relatively good cardiovascular base, your ability to do more work increases. If you can do more work, you can lift more weight, which in turn is going to allow you to become stronger, depending on the demands of what you are trying to get and the output that you are trying to get from your particular program. So the fact that even in that context that you would think that you are wasting your time doing cardio is not necessarily the case. Now, cardio can come in so many different forms, and sometimes you have to identify exactly what the person means when they're telling you that you are wasting your time doing it. But not only are there physiological benefits from doing it, I think there are a lot of other things that need to be factored in as well, like the starting point of the person. Because a lot of people, when they first get started, strength training is sometimes seen as a bridge too far. The fact that they're just getting to the gym for the very first time is such a daunting prospect for them, that the best thing for them to do in those early stages of trying to make a change is potentially going and just walking on a treadmill for 30 minutes, doing a light, brisk walk, going on a rowing machine, going on a bike or whatever the case might be, and doing something where they don't have to think about the technicalities of what they're doing. They don't have to worry about a high risk of injury, adding external load into what they're doing. The fact is, they've just started attending or going to something which for them was a massive, massive mental hurdle. And this is their starting point. And doing that and building the consistency that way so that they could transition into doing some form of strength training doesn't make that cardio a waste of time whatsoever, because it is the starting steps that they are undertaking in order to do it. It may also be in the same vein as what I've just talked about. It may be the fact that somebody has an injury which is limiting them from doing it. It may be a psychological injury where they're trying to overcome that and they're trying to just keep that consistency up or build that consistency, and doing that, jumping on, the elliptical or things like that, despite what you think about that particular application or that machine that they're using. The fact is they're building that consistency and they're working towards something for themselves. And maybe that is to segue into doing some form of strength training later on. So that's one thing that's got to be considered. The other thing is I actually believe there is a big mental benefit for just being able to go and sit on the rower for 20 minutes, go and sit on a bike for 20 to 30 minutes, go and do a walk or, an incline walk on a treadmill for, 20 to 30 minutes, and being able to do those things, have a slightly elevated heart rate and be working towards it, where you can pop in a podcast and focus on doing that. You can just let your mind wander while you're doing those things, and you can feel good about actually building some consistency and doing something physical, because maybe you've been sitting at a desk all day and your mind is completely fried from the amount of information you've got to process within your work, and you're not at a state where doing weight training is second nature. You've got to think and compute so much information. Am I in the right position here? I don't want to get injured lifting this much weight. And you know what? But you still want to do something physical. So just going and tuning out and doing that particular activity for 20 to 30 minutes can't be seen as a waste of time. It can't be, because all these things are benefits or hidden benefits outside of the physiological of just doing it. So the bottom line is, and to wrap this all up and to finish this off, you are not wasting your time doing cardio. It is, that advice has to be given out based off, firstly, your goal, what it is that you're looking to achieve. And as I said, as I've observed, even with strength goals and even body composition goals, there is some benefit to doing it. Now, this is also there's going to be a lot of things that goal is the number one thing, right? Like, I do think that there are most goals, depending on how you structure the cardio. This is not all cardio. Sometimes we need to be smart and selective with what we do. But the goal, working towards that, what is that? And is what we're doing going to be conducive with us reaching that end goal? That's number one. But number two, for a lot of people, when it comes to their overall health and well-being, it's going to be the amount of time you actually have to be able to allocate to your training and to your health. Because that time, while it could be used for cardio, and I think deep down, this is probably what some of these people mean when they say you're wasting your time. But again, I don't believe you're wasting your time. Potentially the time could be better spent doing something else, because there are ways doing things like supersets and alike, limiting rest periods within strength training, where we are able to get some form of cardiovascular response from doing weight training, from doing external resistance training. And maybe this is what they mean. If you do have limited time, maybe your time could be better allocated to doing other things. And this is the second part of it. Like, how much time do you have? Because yes, while training for a lot of us should be put as a priority, the amount of time that we have to allocate to that is finite, especially for a lot of people that will be listening to this podcast, those busy dads, though even I know we have a few busy mums that listen to this, but as a busy parent, you may only have, say, that 3 to 5 hours a week that you can allocate to doing that training. And as a result, you have to be smart and you have to be really concise with what you do if you are working towards a really clearly defined goal. And even if you're not, to get the most out of your training time, you do have to be really smart with how you do that. And sometimes that application may not be the smartest way to use that time or the best way to use that time. But to throw that line out there as an overarching rule for everything that you're doing is not the case. It is not true. In the 15 years that I have done this, my opinion on this has actually changed, where maybe 7-8 years ago, I would have been one of the people in that camp that would have told you that you don't need to do it. But as with everything, we grow and we learn and we get new information. And as we get that new information, it's going to change our opinions, it's going to change our methods, and it's going to change the delivery of those methods as a coach with our clients. And that is where I'm at with it. In regards to the cardio, are you wasting your time? I actually think for the vast majority of people, no, you're not. But that advice has to be given out based off your goals. It has to be context specific, knowing what you're working towards. And then also the allocation of your time. If you don't have the time to be doing that because you are already stretched with what you are doing, and your goal would dictate that you want to be more of a strength bias, then maybe we have to look how we get some form of cardiovascular response from the strength work that we're doing, which is something that we can do. Now, if this is something that you struggle with, thinking that in the gym you have to be doing every single thing and you're missing out on parts, which is a really common thing, especially when you are at a point where you feel like you have limited time, but you need to do everything and you need help kind of refining what it is that you need to do in order to get to your goal. That's where a good coach would come in and be able to help you and guide you to a place with a plan that is going to be able to make the most out of your time. So obviously, I am one of those coaches, and I know plenty of other people that are very, very capable and very, very good at what they do. So if you do need help with that and you're kind of feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the process, then please reach out. I'm here to help, especially with that stuff, because the problem with, if you're at the point right now where you're feeling overwhelmed with that, I've seen many, many cautionary tales over the last decade and a half of people who have gotten to the point where they get overwhelmed thinking they need to do everything. And then all of a sudden they stop enjoying the training that they're doing, and then they stop doing it. And then all of a sudden it gets to a point where they just stop doing it and they just stop going through due to that feeling of overwhelm and that feeling of not knowing exactly what they should be doing. So if you're at that point and you feel like you need to shift right now and you need some guidance, reach out and get some help, because you don't want to go backwards. You want to continue to build on the foundation that you've put in to build you to this point. And especially those of you that are new dads, it is sometimes very hard to fit in that new paradigm and that new life and continue to do the training, because the time that you have to allocate to it shrinks. The time that you had prior to kids or prior to being married was a lot more, because you only had to worry about yourself. Whereas now, when you have this new reality and this new stage of your life that you're moving into, you're not going to have the amount of time to do the same amount that you used to do. And adjusting that plan to making sure that we're optimizing it is where someone like myself can come in to really help you enjoy your training and make sure you don't get to the point where you feel guilty or you feel overwhelmed by not doing enough. So if you need help with it, please reach out. I'm here to help. You can send us a message on the socials as well if you don't want to book in a time. If you want to have a bit more of a casual chat over the DMs, feel free to do that. But other than that, thanks for listening for another week. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I will see you all next week. Goodbye.